So trivia, it's time to throw it over to Mikey P with your Rangers Ed 150, the fastest 150 seconds in the National Hockey Podcast League.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rangers Ed 150. Last week there were 3, and now there are none. We've officially done away with the remaining undefeated squads, and it's time to get down to brass tacks as the Bruins, Avs, and Golden Knights all come back down to reality. We had a horrific moment across the pond in the UK where former NHLer Adam Johnson, just 29 years old, passed away after a terrible accident in the Nottingham Panthers game against Sheffield on Saturday night. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, friends, and teammates as they mourn their loss. Back to the NHL, we have 4 divisions to get through, so without further ado, out west in the Pacific Division, Vegas is still crushing it at 8-0-1, having only suffered 1 overtime loss to the Blackhawks on Friday night. Vancouver still hanging on to second place, but the big surprise has no doubt been the play of the Kraken, Flames, and Oilers. Those 3 teams have combined for 5 wins through 24 games, and with the exception of Vegas, this division is as upside down as it will ever be. Edmonton's been without McDavid for the past few games, but they should see him back in action tonight, Sunday night. Even with McDavid coming back, though, the bottom line is that these 3 teams have played terrible defense to date, and if they want to move forward in the move up in the standings, they need to clean up their back ends first and foremost. Further east in that Central Division, Colorado and Dallas are still 1-2, and it should stay that way for most of the season. Winnipeg could stick around. They got a great defensive core anchored by Connor Hellebuck. They're currently tied in points with Dallas, but the Stars do have 2 games in hand. So Winnipeg could be a potential candidate for that 3rd place spot in the Central Division. Colorado has suffered back-to-back 4-0 losses, one to Pittsburgh and then one to Buffalo 2 nights later. In their loss to Buffalo today, Cale Makar went into the boards awkwardly, immediately went down the tunnel. He did return to the game, but did leave subsequently several times in the 3rd period. So it's unclear if he is injured, and if so, what the extent of that injury may be. Back to the Eastern Conference in the Atlantic Division, Boston did suffer their first loss to the Anaheim Ducks after surrendering a 2-goal lead. A 2-goal lead with 2 minutes left in the game. Toronto continues to be a very confusing squad. They've lost to Chicago, Montreal, and Florida, but they've also gone on to beat teams like Dallas and Tampa. Last week I said their defense was garbage, and I still believe it is, but credit where credit's due. They held the Caps and Stars to 1 goal apiece and beat each 4-1. The Leafs are currently sitting in 2nd place in the Atlantic, and it is likely that they could creep ahead of the Bruins into that 1st place spot at some point in the near future. Detroit dropped 2 since last week, and they seem to be coming back down to reality as well. 37% of their goals have been scored on the power play, and they need to figure out how to score 5v5 more consistently if they want to hang in the top half of the Atlantic Division standings. Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators was suspended 41 games for gambling. Important to note that it was not gambling on the NHL, so Ottawa will have to come up with a plan B for that 2nd-line center position. I would just like to point out the irony here that 1, Ottawa is in fact sponsored by a gambling and sports betting website in Bet99, I believe. And 2, if you've watched any NHL games in the last 2 years, you would know that Gary Bettman has sold his soul to the sports betting world, and every other commercial you see is for a gambling website. So figure it out, Uncle Gary. Finally, in the Metro Division, the Boys in Blue are clean and clear in 1st place, and if I were a Rangers fan, I would be mighty happy with the way they've been playing from goal line to goal line. Igor Shesterkin has been the least impressive of all the Rangers this year. It's not to say he's been playing poorly, because he hasn't. He's been much more average than anything else. The impressive part of the Rangers has been their defense. They undoubtedly have a top 3 defense in the league this year, and with the way their offense can get clicking, they're looking to make a serious run in the playoffs. Philly dropped 2 last week, so it seems like they're also coming back down to reality after their hot start. Hurricanes got Freddie Anderson back after he took a puck to the face and missed 3 games, so hopefully he can fix up their back end, maybe keep some pucks out of the net. Nico Hischier left the Devils' Friday night game against Buffalo after taking a high hit for Connor Clifton and is currently listed as day-to-day. New Jersey is another top-tier team that's also struggling to keep the puck out of their own net, and I have a sneaking suspicion that it may be because teams have realized that Vitek Vanacek is maybe not as good as last season made him out to be. We got three big ones for the Rangers this week. On Monday, we're off to Winnipeg to face off against the Jets to finish up that West Coast swing, and then they'll fly home to face off against the Canes on Thursday night, and then it's off on the road again to Minnesota to face the Wild on Saturday night. Tough travel schedule for the boys in blue, so hopefully they can shake off that jet lag and come away with 3 W's. Until next week, this has been your 150.
Yeah, while that 150 going on, Chris Kreider ties the game on the power play on a Fox shot, deflects it in. It's 2-2 with 6 minutes to go in the third period.
Can we talk a little bit about that sports betting situation?
Yeah, I think we can. But first, I think we should talk about what happened across the pond.
Was that Kreider's tip or was that Fox's?
Kreider's tip, yeah.
It looked like Fox scored, but they gave it to Kreider,
no,
so he must have tipped it.
So,
former NHL player Adam Johnson was cut on the ice with a skate and ended up passing away in England. He played in the English, the equivalent of the NHL in England. Freak accident, but I actually saw the replay, which wasn't easily found because of what happened. It was kind of blocked from online. I don't know. Did you guys get a chance to see the play?
No.
I did. The PA was able to find it somehow.
Yeah, the guy is like cutting across, and this player just like dives in the air and throws his skate at his head. I mean, it was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. You guys should watch it. It's really insane play, and not I mean they said they're going to investigate it for manslaughter because it was like a criminal act. It was like almost intentional.
Really?
Yeah, apparently this guy doesn't have a good history in the league, and he's had not similar controversies, but some other questionable plays as well.
Yeah, I'll send it to you, Coach. It's really sad. Obviously, not saying we should watch it for any other reason, but just to assess if it was an accident. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty serious. I think that they need to investigate that thoroughly. Because look, there's a certain thing. I'll put my lawyer hat on for a second. So there's a certain thing called assumption of risk, right? So when you play a sport, you assume a certain amount of risk, right? So for example, in football, if you get hit and concussed, like you can't sue the other player for battery and medical damages, right? Because you assume the risk that you're going to get hit, and you understand that a concussion might happen. The question is whether there's certain types of conduct that are outside the scope of that, right? So like when Marty McSorley took his stick and chopped Donald Brashear, that's not like what you consent to when you play hockey. Like I'm not consenting to somebody taking a stick and slashing me in the neck, right? Or the head. So this is one of those plays that I think is a little interesting as far as whether they might actually charge this guy criminally. It's in a different country too, so I don't know their laws, but I don't think there's been many, if any, incidents on a sporting, I don't want to say field because it's a rink, but at a sporting event that have been charged criminally. It's an interesting. I don't know, Coach. Can you think of any in your life that a criminal charge came from it?
I think way back when I was a little kid, one of the famous incidences was I think it was Teddy Green got slashed in the head by somebody, and he actually had a metal plate put in his head, and he played with it, still with no helmet after. But I think when that happened, I think the guy got brought up on charges, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually,
that was like I'm going to say it was like 1968, 70, something like that.
Yeah,
wow, that's
remember crazy. McSorley did actually. In the example I just gave, when he hit Brashear, he was charged with assault in Canada and convicted. Sorry, go ahead.
I vaguely remember either when I was like maybe 16, 17, or it might have been when I was in college, and it was a player that was 16 or 17, but he had a vicious slash to the head. Dad, do you remember, Coach? Do you remember that at all?
No, I don't remember.
And I feel like he got thrown out of. I feel like he got thrown out of Long Island hockey or whatever league he was in. And then there was also a similar controversy whether or not he should be brought up on charges. I forget exactly what the incident was. I thought maybe I could spark your memory a little bit, but
no, it doesn't.
What about the Todd Bertuzzi play, I think, on Steve Moore. I think that when he chased him down and hit him in the head, that might have been a criminal charge as well. So maybe it's more likely than I thought. Yeah, I think he was.
I think the Bertuzzi one was brought up. Yes, I agree with you. I'm pretty sure.
I think that was criminal charge as well. So sad story out of England. We obviously wish his family and friends, our condolences. It's really sad. Only 29 years old, Adam Johnson.